Hi everyone, it's Daylight Weaver. Today I'm making a video about the concept of what is known as crystal children, and many of them are adults now, and what happens when that crystal soul group gets burnout. Many of this crystal soul group is diagnosed with autism or reaches adulthood without any diagnosis because they may have mild autism or didn't have the stereotypical traits that someone would consider autistic, so they can kind of fly under the radar a bit. But some of the traits of autism are similar to this crystal soul group. And going undiagnosed is especially a pattern for women because women are able to mimic the people around them. Like as children, they can just see other girls and mimic the way that the other girls are acting, and they can appear to be neurotypical from the outside, unlike boys who didn't seem to be able to do that quite in the same way. And about the concept of crystal children are similar to what many people know of as indigo children, but there are some key differences between the indigo and crystal soul type. Indigos were said to be a soul group that came in first, and they started incarnating on Earth in mass numbers, maybe in like the 70s or around that time, and 80s, maybe early 80s. And they came in to help break down old systems. And they were the kids who were labeled ADHD. And they had a hard time keeping quiet when they saw something they didn't agree with. So like souls before this soul group really started to incarnate on Earth, may see something that wasn't right or some injustice of some sort, but they would just maybe ask a couple questions but then just go along with it. But a lot of souls that started to come in around the 70s were just incapable of forcing themselves to just accept like the status quo. Many of them weren't able to just sit in a classroom and participate in this old archaic way of teaching children, and they just couldn't make themselves sit still. They didn't want to focus on things that weren't of interest to them, and so the society just labeled them as a problem and gave it a pathology, ADHD. But there is a link there between this type of person and the indigo soul group, which started to come to Earth in order to break down the old structures that aren't contributing to soul evolution very much anymore. So when you have a big mass of beings coming to a world like that, like they are or like they have been, then things have to change. And after the indigo soul group came in, a lot of the crystalline souls came in after, who were born in like the 80s and 90s. And these children, like I said before, were getting labeled as autistic, but if not, then maybe that they seem exceptionally like maybe spacey or dreamy or imaginative. But yeah, definitely different than just the regular, like neurotypical type of person. They may be highly empathic to the point to where they dissociate when things get too overwhelming for their nervous systems. They may seem half in another reality or another world and may have some spiritual abilities. And this correlates with how many people have started to become diagnosed as autistic. I believe at one point it was like 1 in 80 people were diagnosed with autism, and today the number is closer to 1 out of 39 people are diagnosed with it. And it's just a huge increase of souls that are tasked with coming here and changing the energy of this world. As far as changing the structures, like the ADHD, like the indigo soul group was trying to forcefully breaking down things with using their voice and just being completely incapable of forcing themselves into things that they just don't agree with. They can't do it. Like, it makes them angry, they simply will refuse to participate. And with so many people being diagnosed with autism now, or having this soul type, the old ways of societal structures don't fit for these types of people. For example, like traditional work environments, I believe something like 80% of people who are diagnosed with autism are unemployed or underemployed. And it's not because autistic people aren't intelligent. In fact, many of them are highly intelligent, although IQ and autism aren't synonymous. You can evaluate IQ separately, but a lot of autistic people are highly intelligent, especially at a certain few areas, and the neurons in the brains of autistic people develop faster than neurotypical people, so they can be extremely highly gifted in a few areas and may struggle in some other areas. Like social situations may be a bit challenging, which can make trying to go to work every day in an office with like office politics and people putting more emphasis on how likable someone may seem socially, like a popularity contest versus just doing your job. And autistic people may be excellent at doing their job but can't be Mr. Mrs. Popular. And these types of environments can be highly stressful for autistic or crystal people. But when you consider the fact that 1 in 39 people are being diagnosed with it now, it's definitely going to have to force things to change, because let's say that this increases even more and it becomes like 1 out of 10 people. What are you going to do? You're going to have all of these people not working. That's not going to be sustainable. So eventually things are going to have to change to accommodate this soul group, and it's actually going to soften the whole world and make things easier for our nervous systems, and it's going to soften the energy of the whole world to accommodate this type of soul group. And the souls coming in after the crystalline souls is the rainbow type, but I'm not going to go into that today. But if you would like to research that, that's something to look into. So now I wanted to talk a bit about the mechanisms of being a crystal. So when you think about a person who's a crystal and the word that they chose to describe this soul group, a crystal, and you think about, any of you may work with crystals, and especially like quartz crystals, how they absorb negative energy. So many people wear crystals on their body to help protect them and absorb maybe some negative emotions that they're experiencing or that people send to them. The crystal many times will take on this energy and hold on to it for the person. Eventually, the crystal, maybe after a few weeks or something, it becomes so full of energy that it feels and looks kind of murky. Then these crystals, being little computers, they get overfull with energy, or like say you download too much into a computer and then there's no more room for it to do anything, and you need to empty the trash and delete some of the information the crystal is holding. And it's the same for this soul type. So crystalline souls will absorb energy from the people around them and from environments. So they go into an environment and their nervous system is very sensitive. Their energy is very open. Then they can be sympathetic in a way, like energetically sympathetic to all of the energy that's floating around them. And it can just all land and settle right on them. Many people of this soul group love to isolate and be alone to recover from being around a lot of people. And what is happening is that they have taken on a lot of negative energy and they need to transmute it and to discharge it. And they do that on their own. It's so important for crystalline and autistic people to go take some time to yourself and have as little stimulation as possible, and just be alone in a room and let your nervous system re-regulate itself, let your energy field recuperate, And there are so many things you can do to help facilitate this. And it's actually imperative in order for your survival, because unfortunately, autistic people have a shorter lifespan than neurotypical people. Even with mild autism, I think the lifespan that I've seen is something like maybe 37 to 59 years old. Like it's shorter, unfortunately. And I think that this is showing the imperative need for this soul group and this type of person to support your nervous system and yourself and come away from difficult environments. If something feels difficult to you, you're absorbing a lot of negativity in the world, and you need to come away and recharge yourself. And it's imperative for your survival here. And I believe so many crystals are given the assignment to come here because we are transmuting and taking away a lot of negative energy from the world, and it's very much needed. Even though it's not something that's consciously done, it's happening regardless. It's just the way, it's like the mechanism of your spirit. So it's a service that crystal souls are here, and we should all be grateful for them and their presence. But we need to help make this world a softer place, and softer place for their survival, and to accommodate the needs of this type of being. And I also don't think it's a static thing. Like, say there's a neurotypical person and then they find themselves suddenly becoming more sensitive or developing some kind of spiritual gifts, and they may go through some type of a initiation of some sort. You can look that up, and they come out of it a different type of person. Sometimes a soul can transition into having more of an energy signature of a crystal, and so just because maybe they aren't born that way doesn't mean that it won't develop as they get older. So let's say all of us eventually become crystalline or become indigo or become both, ADHD, autism together, indigo plus crystal, or into rainbow people. Some people never will in this lifetime, and maybe that's just not their assignment. But for all of those who do, we all need to take care of ourselves. And also another thing I realize about crystal souls is that, like an actual crystal, like some crystals have the property where they're mirroring back things to people, so they may intensify. Like if you hold a crystal, it may intensify your thoughts and feelings and energy. And some crystalline souls, when they are around people who have negative way of being, they will mirror it back to them. They may become like a chameleon and show that back to the person, and then that person won't like the crystal because they are not able to recognize that the crystal is just showing them what is in themselves. And this is a very uncomfortable situation for everyone at times, but the purpose of that is to help other souls to evolve by seeing themselves, if they're able or willing to examine the things within themselves. But it's still a situation that can be very taxing for the crystal, and they need to get away and take care of themselves and, maybe isolate a bit and do some things for themselves to recharge. So there's a phenomenon called autistic burnout. And this is when people with autism, mild autism, even people undiagnosed with it may have felt this before, but this type of burnout is when you are just exhausted in every part of your being, in every cell. You can't function anymore. You can barely remember words for things. You can barely walk. You can't take care of yourself. You lose abilities that you once had. It is so severe for some autistic people that it can last for years and years, and sometimes people never recover. And it's a very scary thing. I've seen a lot of people talking about this, autistic burnout. This comes from first of all, from trying to force yourself for too long to mask your sensitivity and to force yourself to mimic the people around you and to keep up with the pace of this world that is meant for neurotypical people. And then you can only do that for so long if you're not recharging and getting away and having recovery periods. If you keep doing it, it's going to take a horrible toll on your nervous system, on your mind, on your ability to function. It's dangerous, and we need to be aware that this can happen if you don't take care of yourself. I wanted to talk about this also to warn some younger people before they go on in your life and you're still in the planning phase of going to college or thinking about what you may want for your future. I would just like to put out the idea of maybe planning, if you know that you're more of a sensitive person, if you're diagnosed with autism, if you resonate with being a crystal, I just want to put out the thought of maybe planning or choosing or taking steps in life for yourself that are the most soft and restful and will not overwhelm you too much. So if you have the option to maybe live with, a friend or a family that's, a healthy situation, that you get along with them, it may keep you from experiencing the level of stress that it would take to completely support yourself and go out on your own and say, I'm going to become an executive and I'm going to get a master's and a doctorate and I'm going to do all of these things and I'm going to work 80 hours a week to accomplish my goals. I just want to say, if you are considering a path that way, but you know that you're a more sensitive being and that you're highly spiritual and in tune with the energies around you, I just want to put into your mind maybe the consideration that soft life may be more sustaining for yourself in the future. There's nothing wrong with taking your time in life and not overwhelming yourself, because just accumulating things like achievements and degrees and job titles, yeah, maybe you can stack some money and feel a sense of accomplishment, which is I know that's important in life too, but so is balance. And you really have to take into consideration the type of being that you are. And you may not feel burnout now. Some people may have never experienced it yet. But when you reach maybe, like the mid time of your life, and you find that you have maybe 5 kids and you have a full-time job and a partner and so many responsibilities, and you don't give yourself that rest time, it can take a toll. And it can be scary if you feel yourself breaking down and not being able to function anymore and having severe burnout. So if at any way possible that you can plan for a more gentle life that won't lead to that type of situation, take those steps for yourself now. So I also wanted to talk about ways to prevent burnout. Some causes that I found for it, like some spiritual causes. So like some crystal souls will end up doing energy work, or even if not, just being around certain people who have spirit attachments. Or you may one day be feeling low and your vibration goes a bit lower, and then you are the perfect frequency for like a parasitic type of attachment to land on you. And then you can just feel super drained. Nothing you do makes you feel better. Sometimes this type of burnout and exhaustion is actually just from entities. So I think it's super important for us to get energy work treatments and clearings, little like exorcism or something to remove negative energies and entities from us. Because after you have a treatment like that, I heard from so many people who just feel like they were reborn after getting energy work treatments, because there are little parasitic entities they do need to feed. I got an image of sort of a way to explain this. So imagine there is a spirit world, or there are different layers of worlds, and there are beings in these worlds. And just like you and I want to find a place where we feel comfortable, say, you are used to a certain type of environment, and you may want to make your home a way that feels comfortable for you, or you may like to go to a certain store because it feels comfortable. It's not too expensive, it's not too cheap, it's like the level where you feel comfortable. Well, it's the same for these entities, the spirit entities, and they want to find a place that feels comfortable for them too. So let's say if they're a lower vibrational parasitic type of entity, they may be looking for a host that makes them feel comfortable. And if you are in a state of exhaustion and despair, experiencing grief or rage or anything like that, that is the right frequency for something that is similar in vibration. So it may be passing by, you may walk by someone on the street, and it may be carrying something, and it see you, and you're in that same vibrational state. And then it will just jump and attach to you. And these things happen every day, all the time, to everyone. So it's not something like, that you would see in a Hollywood movie or something. It's just things that happen. And so if you are in a state of exhaustion, or if you've been around people as a crystal, you are absorbing a certain type of energy from people, and it puts you in a certain state, you'll be a perfect host for parasites. Sorry to say, it's gross, but it happens. And so that is why it is just so important to get our cleansings. If some of you live near the ocean, getting out into salt water, grounding yourself, doing earthing to release, just to connect yourself with the rhythm of the earth is so healing. Although I do want to say that walking barefoot on the ground, while that is healing, just make sure you don't do it in a place where animals use the bathroom, because parasites from animal waste can enter through the soles of our feet. So, you can't always just walk barefoot anywhere, but I think like on a beach is always a safe place with the salt water and sand. Other ways to clear yourself, just like when you clear a crystal, a lot of us will cleanse our crystals in like salt. I use lemon and salt because they're cleansing. You can take a salt bath or use Epsom salt and dunk your head and cleanse yourself that way. I have a pendulum, which I will put a link for this pendulum that I've got. This lady in Spain makes them, and it's the one that I'm thinking of. It's called the Exor pendulum, and it's an exorcism pendulum. It will remove entities that are attached, and I use that on myself, and I feel so great after. So that's one way you can do it. Just getting out into sunlight, or having a moon bath, or just seeing a shaman or other kind of spiritual practitioner, getting massages and doing it regularly, like if you can afford it, like once a month. If you are lucky enough to have health insurance, for us people in the US, our system kind of sucks in that way, but if you are lucky enough to have health insurance where physical therapy is covered, many massage therapists can bill a massage as physical therapy, and you can get it covered that way. Maybe putting your feet in Epsom salt and just taking some time for yourself. If you need to take like a week off and you can afford it, definitely do it for yourself, because it can prevent so many problems down the line and make you a more effective crystal in this world that is just really needing healing. So yeah, overall my message is just if you are feeling burned out right now, you're not alone. There's a lot floating around out there, but we need to take care of ourselves first, and preventing burnout is priceless. So if you can at all arrange your life in a way that is low demand and that gives you a lot of time for rest and joy and just to enjoy life, because if you don't have moments like that, it can shorten your life and it's not conducive to living down here. So rest, relaxation, joy, cleansing is as necessary as air and water and breathing. we need to do those things for ourselves. More and more of us are coming in to this world as crystals or evolving and changing into them, and together we should all not shame each other for resting. I don't believe in laziness. If someone is needing to take a break and not work, there's something that they're trying to process, because it's not a normal state just to lay around for no reason. There's always something that someone is carrying that is making life too heavy for them, and so they are stopping and trying to recover. So if we can just be compassionate with each other while we go through these stages, and compassionate with ourselves for needing rest, I think that'll bring a lot of peace to the world.